You know the name. You've probably heard it whispered in the dark, La Llorona, the weeping woman, a chilling, ghostly figure sobbing by the water's edge, a name that has meant pure terror for generations. But what if I told you that the ghost story that haunts horror movies and campfire tales isn't the whole story? What if the real spirit is so much older, way more powerful, and is crying for reasons you've never, ever been told? Okay, let's break this down. On one side, you've got the Hollywood monster, a vengeful ghost, a straightforward story about jealousy and murder. But on the other side, you have this deep, historical figure. She's not just a jump scare. She's an omen of conquest, a symbol of resistance, and a super complex cultural icon. We're going to figure out how one turned into the other. So first things first, let's start with a version of the story that basically went viral, the one that became a chilling bedtime story all across Latin America and really the world. You probably know how it goes. A beautiful woman, Maria, gets her heart broken by her husband. In this absolute fit of rage and despair, she does the unthinkable. She drowns her own children. The second she does it, the guilt just consumes her. She takes her own life, but she's denied peace, trapped between worlds and forced to wander forever, wailing for the kids she can never get back.
Yeah, on the surface, it's a terrifyingly good cautionary tale, right? A pretty grim way for parents to make sure their kids don't go playing near the river after dark. But that's just scratching the surface. The real reason her cry has been echoing for over 500 years, well, that goes much, much deeper.
To find out where that original cry came from, we have to go back in time, way back, before this folktale even existed, before Spanish ships ever even saw the shores of Mexico. So check out this timeline. The idea of a wailing woman didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It actually has roots in the Aztec goddess Cihuacoatl, the snake woman, who was said to weep in the night. And here's the crucial part. In 1509, a full 10 years before the Spanish arrived, the people of the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, witnessed a terrifying omen. And we know about this because it was written down in the Florentine Codex, which is this incredible historical record from the time of the conquest. It lists 6 omens that predicted the fall of the Aztec Empire. And the 6th omen, well, that's the key to this whole mystery. According to the Codex, night after night, the people heard a woman's voice just weeping and crying out over the city. But her cry wasn't, "Where are my children?" It was, "Oh, my children, where am I to take you?" You see the difference? This wasn't the scream of a guilty mother confessing her crime. It was the desperate wail of a goddess, a prophet warning her people that an apocalypse was coming. A prophecy of total annihilation. So, how in the world did that powerful protective cry get twisted into the shriek of a child-killing monster? Well, the answer, like with so much of this story, is tangled up in the trauma of colonization. And this is where the story of the weeping woman gets fused with a real person, La Malinche. She was an indigenous Nahua woman who was an interpreter for the conquistador Cortés. She even had his son. She's an incredibly complicated figure. Some see her as the mother of the modern Mexican people, but for centuries she was branded as a traitor. So with all that happening, the legend was completely rewritten. The protective Aztec goddess gets turned into an indigenous woman who betrays her lover. That epic prophecy about cultural destruction, it gets shrunk down into a personal, tragic story about a bad mother. And this new version, it served a purpose. It basically shifted the blame for all the colonial violence onto a woman's shoulders and became a tool to enforce patriarchal control. And this deep split in her identity, is she a prophet or is she a monster, it's still playing out today. And you can see it perfectly on the movie screen. Get this, in 2019, 2 movies named La Llorona came out. The American one, The Curse of La Llorona, treats her like a classic movie monster, an external supernatural evil that attacks an American family. But the Guatemalan film, also called La Llorona, does something completely different. In that movie, the real monster isn't a ghost, it's a human general. And the horror isn't some ghost attacking you, it's the evil that people do to each other, specifically pointing to the real-life genocide of indigenous Mayan people. The difference is just massive. One film basically flattens the legend. You could say it whitewashes it, turning this hugely complex figure into a simple jump scare for a global audience. But the other one reclaims her completely, using her wail as a powerful cry for justice against very real historical crimes. And that act of reclaiming La Llorona, it's not just happening in movies. In the last few decades, she has been going through her most powerful transformation yet. Chicana feminist writers and artists started rewriting her story from the ground up. The author Sandra Cisneros, for example, she imagines La Llorona's cry not as a sound of despair, but as this amazing holler of joy, of power, of liberation from male violence. And today, she's being turned into this ultimate symbol of rebellion. She's a voice for feminists, an icon used in protests against femicide and gender-based violence. In some new versions of the story, she's a protective spirit who helps migrant kids cross the border safely. Activists have even held up banners that say, "We are all wailing women," connecting her ancient cry to their very modern protests. It really proves that even a monster can be reclaimed. Her cry, which started as a whisper of warning, then became a scream of guilt, has now become a full-throated roar of defiance. So from an Aztec omen to a colonial cautionary tale, and now to a modern symbol of protest, her wail has always adapted to reflect the deepest pains of the people telling her story. Which really just leaves us with one last big question. If that's true, what is she wailing for right now? Let us know in the comments, what country's folklore should we dive into next? And hey, if you have a friend who loves a good ghost story but only knows the Hollywood version of La Llorona, you should definitely share this with them. And of course, subscribe, because we're going to be doing way more deep dives into legends from all over the globe. And if you love getting into folklore that goes way beyond the basics, for sure ring that notification bell. You are not going to want to miss what we have coming up next.